Hey, boos and ghouls out there in YouTube land, this is Jen. And yes, I know I'm late. I am very, very late. 2 weeks late to be exact. Don't worry, me and Marty are not expecting a visit from the stork. I'm just late on the latest Tales from the Crypt episode. These last 2 weeks, a few things came up and I just couldn't have the time to film something. Luckily, I'm back and we're back. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts on the 5th episode of the first season of Tales from the Crypt, Lover Come Hack to Me, well then, stick around.
Two hearts that beat as one.
Lover Come Hack to Me. Probably, actually, I'm not even going to say, I'm going to skip the foreplay. It's not probably, it is my favorite title of all of Cryptum, Lover Come Hack to Me. It's just such a good, has that cheese-filled goodness that Tales from the Crypt is known for. And it also is a hell of a good episode. I wouldn't say it is one of the greatest. I wouldn't put it in my top 10 or even the top 15, but like with a lot of these episodes you're going to hear me talk about, what it lacks in depth, it just makes up for in the fun factor. And where it also really makes up in this episode is the gore factor. This is one of our more goriest Tales from the Crypt episodes. It's not the goriest Tales from the Crypt episode, but I would definitely put it in the top 5, possibly top 3, and it just has atmosphere for days. And I also, aside from the title, another thing that I absolutely love about this episode is the man in the director's chair tonight, who is our beloved Tom Holland, who all of us horror fans need no introduction to. The man gave us fucking Fright Night, as well as Child's Play, and I could go on and on. The man is a living god as far as I'm concerned, and I love the man, and you can definitely tell his brand, his stamp is all over this episode. And also the writer of this episode is someone I greatly admire. The guy who did the screenplay is Michael McDowell, and he not only did stuff for TV and movies, he was also an author. In fact, him and Stephen King were really good friends. He wrote a lot of Southern Gothic material, and I'm not super familiar with his work, but he did have a series called Blackwater, and I did read a few books in that series, and it was pretty good. If Southern Gothic's your jam, you would probably really dig his writing. But like I said, he wasn't just encased in the literature world. He also did a lot of movies and television. He wrote screenplays. Probably his biggest claim to fame is he co-wrote the script for Beetlejuice. He also co-wrote the script for one of my personal favorites, Thinner. As I said, he has a Stephen King connection, and the other person who helped co-wrote Thinner, the guy directing this episode, Tom Holland. So although I don't know for sure, I would kind of reason to guess that these guys must have liked working together, and they work really well. Tom Holland's cinematic eye and Michael McDowell's gothic sensibilities really give this episode a very cool and creepy atmosphere, because we're kind of the setting, well, it's not exactly a haunted house. Where this couple finds themselves is very eerie, and it's a dark and stormy night, and it just adds all the right touches. And there is a generous dollop of black humor in this episode too, and who really brings the humor in this episode is our star, Amanda Plummer. And you guys know her. I mean, not just horror fans know her, cinephiles know this name. She's been in the business a very long time. She is the daughter of Christopher Plummer, and her kind of signature kind of roles are usually very eccentric, very campy, very different kind of characters. She has very meaty roles. Most people, when they think of her, probably are going to think of her role in Pulp Fiction. I usually go to another performance that I always admired her in, The Fisher King, and she just does oddball characters. I don't think there's an actress who does oddball characters better, and she can be scary, but she has weirdly a lot of heart, even when she's playing, someone batshit crazy, as she may or may not be in this episode. There's something very endearing about her, even when she's wielding a big old battle axe, and you can tell she is having a lot lot of fun in this particular episode. And again, the story of this particular episode is not super deep. I mean, it's a standard Tales from the Crypt. Basically, a man is married a woman for not love, but money. And this episode really is for us gorehounds and for us romantics. And I happen to be both, so this episode really fits the bill. It has a lot of good gore effects. It's pretty heavy on the gore. I wouldn't say it's the goriest episodes of Tales from the Crypt, but I would put it in the top 10 of gory episodes. And there's just something, I have said this and said this and said this, in horror in general, like there is nothing more classic than a woman going insane wielding a big old fucking axe. It is like the little black dress in horror movies. It's just a classic. You can never go wrong with a woman who has gone completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and is just wielding an axe and she's covered in blood and gore and going, ah! Nothing more that just gives me a bigger smile than seeing a woman covered from head to toe in gore wielding a big old battle axe and she's just going, ah! And the only thing better is a woman scorned in love, because that will make you go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs quicker than anything else in the world. And that's what this episode is. It's about a woman who is truly a romantic and wants the perfect wedding night. And it doesn't hurt the fact that this woman is loaded. And she seems very innocent and very sheltered and very shy. And her aunt at the beginning of this episode warns her that the guy that she's marrying isn't in it for love. He just is in it. Well, he is in it for love, but he's not in love with her. He's in love with her fucking bank account. And she doesn't listen to her aunt. She says, "Don't spoil my happiness." And her new husband, as they're heading off to her honeymoon, says, "I'll be out by the time we get back." And so they continue to their honeymoon, and as they're driving along, it gets dark and it starts raining, and unfortunately they can't make it to their hotel because there's a giant fucking tree in the middle of the road, and they can't go backwards or forwards, and they need a place to stay for the night. How fortuitous for them that they come across this very beautiful, very Southern Gothic, old dilapidated house. As luck would have it, they don't even have to break in, because Amanda Plummer, as her new husband is about to break a window, she goes, "Oh wait, look, I found a key." And so they unlock the door, and the house is, like I said, completely dilapidated. You can tell nobody's been in this house probably for a good 20-25 years, and yet there's some odd things about this house. And one of them is even though no one's been in here for quite a few years, the fire looks like it has been laid out for them, like it's prepared for them to use the fireplace, which is odd. You don't find that in abandoned houses too often. And I should know, because I like to poke around in abandoned houses in my wild hot days of youth. I used to like to explore abandoned houses, and never once did I see a freshly lit fire ready to be burned in there. And there's cobwebs and the wallpaper is peeling off the walls, and over this massive fireplace there is this big old fucking axe. And her new husband looks at her and goes, "Look, it's a family portrait. She must have been an old battle axe." And then he looks at her and he goes, "You get it? Battle axe? You know, it's an axe, battle axe." And it's, you could almost hear wah, wah, wah. And it also really establishes that this guy is kind of a douchebag. And I like this actor portraying her husband, because he does, some actors that we will see in Tales from the Crypt who are marrying women just for their money will hide it better and like actually pretend they really love and go the extra mile. This guy, on the other hand, doesn't do that. You can tell he's very transparent that no, he's just here for the money, and even on their wedding night, he's already sort of regretting the decision and hoping that all the millions is gonna be worth it, that she's already getting on his last fucking nerve, and they haven't been married 24 hours yet. And so they proceed to kind of check around this this old house, and they make a fire, and they're soaked to the skin, and he starts taking off his clothes, and he's like, "We're married now, it's okay." And she's like, "Let me just get my bag." And he tries to consummate their marriage on this old love seat. And she's like, no, let's go find a bed. I want this night to be perfect. I want a big old bed. And this is one thing that I'm totally with Amanda Plummer on, because, couches are great for making out on, but if you want a really good night of passion, maybe it's just because I'm older, you want to be comfortable. The bed, some people might say it's boring, it's cliche, it shows no imagination, but when you get past your 20s, you also want to be comfortable, especially if you're planning on doing some gymnastics or some, Kama Sutra. You want to, have a big soft bed so you can, limber up and stretch out and do all kinds of interesting things. And that's what Amanda Plummer wants. She doesn't want this little dingy couch that they barely can fit on. She wants a big old bed. And that's clue number 2, because they do find a bedroom. And again, even though this house is very ramshackled, the bed is freshly made. Like, the sheets have been washed, the bed has been made, and it looks fucking gorgeous. And the other weird thing is the bedroom is just filled with votive candles. Like, every surface is just covered with candles. Now, they're not lit yet, but I mean, how fortuitous. And I'm sorry, and I know even some women roll their eyes and think it's the most Harlequin cliche ever, but I'm a candle girl, and aside from a big bed, I'm also with Amanda Plummer on this. I fucking adore candlelight. I mean, there is no better mood lighting to bang to than candlelight, and the more candlelight, just the better. It gives, as the kids say, vibes. And like I said, there must be like 50 candles all over this room, and she's like, "I'll go to the bathroom and change, and you can light all these candles." And so, her husband's like, "All right, fine, whatever." And so he starts lighting the candles, and she comes out, she goes into the bathroom, and again, Amanda Plummer, up until this point, is very much like a school marm. She's kind of dressed conservatively, her hair's all kind of pulled back, and just rich conservative, but conservative, is there any other kind? But conservative nonetheless. And she goes to the bathroom, and she peels off these very, kind of old maid's clothes, and puts on these black silk stockings and this very pretty underwear, and this, I mean, it's what the 80s would have called the rich harlot look. And I have heard many men who have seen this episode says that she is lovely to look at. Like, it don't hurt the male gaze one bit, and the camera does linger on her. And she goes, "I will do anything for you, because this night has to be perfect." And then she comes out, she saunters, she doesn't just come out of the bathroom, but she saunters out of the bathroom, and her new husband's jaw is on the floor, and he's like, "Wow." And she's like, "This is anything. Do you like it?" And she saunters to the bed, and he goes, "Very much." And then they proceed to have a very passionate sex scene. And this is a pretty heavy-duty sex scene. And again, it's fucking perfect. They have this giant bed. They're in this old Victorian kind of house. They have all the candles you could want. I mean, Bed Bath. There was somewhere, I don't think Bed Bath & Beyond was a thing in the 80s, but whatever the equivalent of Bed Bath & Beyond was in the 80s probably was completely depleted of candles for this episode. And they're just banging away and having a great night of passionate sex. And one of the things that really turns on her new husband is she had told him that she wanted to save herself for marriage, and because he's kind of a scumbag, he wasn't sure if she actually was or was just putting on, a facade to make herself look holier than thou. But when they consummate their marriage, he finds out, "You really are a virgin, aren't you?" And you can just see he's like, "Good." And he says it in kind of a creepy serial killer kind of way. It's supposed to be hot, and maybe for some women it is, but it's very sinister how he says, "Good." good. And then they start having more passionate sex, and it's so loud that the clock downstairs, the glass from their passionate moans, breaks the glass in the clock, which is kind of cool. And it really highlights, not to go in too deep, but you really think the way Tom Holland shoots this particular episode, lovemaking, the sounds of lovemaking and the sounds of being murdered, there's a very fine line, and you could confuse the two very easily. If you don't have a visual, if you're just listening to it, you could easily confuse passionate lovemaking with somebody getting murdered. And I really appreciate that touch. That was kind of a cool touch. And in my little dark black horror heart, I find that really refreshing and romantic, that, you know, the sounds of death, the sounds of sex are also like the sounds of death. As the French say, they call the orgasm the little death. So there's some poetry is what I'm saying, people. There's some fucking poetry in here. And so they have a night of wild and passionate sex. And then afterwards, she, you know, just is smiling and as happy as can be. And she's like, I know we made a baby. And you know what? It's just this big, which is even creepier to me than the fucking good when he found out she was a virgin. Like, I love kids and stuff, but I don't want to talk about making a baby when I'm trying to do bow bow chicka bow bow chicka bow bow chicka bow bow. Like, it's just, I want passion. I don't want to think about goo goo gaga. And I'm not kink shaming. I know there's some people that like to mix the two. You know, they're into the baby thing. Not like that, but like cosplay people, and that's okay. But
oh, Jesus Christ.
I can see my editor right now going, oh, okay, cut, Jen. But there are people who like to dress up as babies and they get a sexual kick out of it. Google it if you don't believe me. That is what I meant. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, she was saying we made a baby and it was just this big. And, you know, the guy actually, I guess good virgin sex must have done something, because he seems a little softer, because he kisses her fingertips where she showed him how big the baby was. And then he proceeds to fall asleep. And when he does, he wakes up and his new bride is gone. And he goes downstairs to try to find her. And the harlot he married has another man coming in. And she's like, I have to have this night perfect. And she goes, I don't want to go in a bed. I want to do it on the couch. And this new dude's name is Alan. And it's very darkly funny, because our new husband, who you could tell was just marrying her for the money, was like, why the fuck did she marry me? And, you know, he's having a crisis, and then he's like, wait a minute, it doesn't matter why she married me, because, you know, I have her money. She's my wife, and that means all her millions are also mine. And then he proceeds to watch who he thinks is his wife and this dude named Alan. And his wife says, after they have passionate sex, we made a baby this big, and it's a little girl. And then she says that, you know, this is as perfect as it gets. Our love will never get any better than it was at this moment. That time soils romance and passion cools and relationships break down. No matter how strong the foundations or how hot the fires of passion are, eventually time wears you down and takes a toll on your love. And his wife is like, I'm not gonna let that happen. And she proceeds to pull off the battle axe off the mantle. And she goes, wake up, Alan, wake up. And she's like, good night, Alan. And she drives the old battle axe into his head. Meanwhile, he's screaming. The other husband is screaming and going, oh my God. And then he goes, wait a minute. My wife's dad's name was Alan. He died before she was born. And then he's like, oh, it's her parents. And when he sees the guy getting, you know, clawed with the axe, he tries to stop him. And, you know, for 80s, like, the special effects now, you can kind of tell it's been aged. But for a show from the 80s with somewhat of a limited budget, the effects are pretty stellar. And you see him running to try to stop her, and he runs right right through him, and that's when it hits him, their ghost, and it's not my wife, it's her mom, these are her parents. And then he wakes up, and his wife is leaning over him, and she's like, it's okay, you just had a nightmare. And then she goes, what were you dreaming about? I dreamed of your parents. I dreamed that your parents, had sex, and then your mother murdered your father. And she's like, that's so weird. That's exactly what happened. And then she immediately pulls out the battle axe. And she's like, my mother had the perfect wedding night and the perfect love. And she was right. Time soils love and romance. And she's like, but my mother had the right idea. Before time could steal what is perfect, I will stop time. And she's like, and I want what my mother had, the perfect love. And then she starts swinging the axe toward him. And he's like, and I love this. This is another thing that I really love, is that he's like, wait, I just married you for your money. I never loved you. And she gets this kind of cuckoo for Coco's Pups look in her eyes again. And she goes, you, that might have been true, but you didn't kill me when you had the chance. Because he takes a gun and he says, I was going to kill you and blame it on a burglar. And she's like, yes, but you didn't. You loved me after we finished making love, so you love me. And then he goes, want to bet? And he tries to pull the trigger, but he had forgotten to put the bullets in the gun. And she proceeds to hack him up, just like dear old mom did with her dad all those years ago. And it's like I said, this scene is very bloody, very gory, and very fucking cool. And then the next day you see her going back to her aunt, and her aunt asking her what the wedding was like. And she's like, it was just perfect. And the aunt goes, now you're not going to fool with any more men, are you? And she's like, I don't need to. I have my baby. And as they're walking off into the sunset, she's like, but she'll need a man one day. And her aunt goes, of course she will. And it's very cool, and I wish we would have maybe gotten another episode, like a follow-up episode about this. And I always thought it would be kind of cool, like a twist, like they're certain that it's going to be a girl. And I know Tales from the Crypt plays loose and fast with logic, but I always thought, what if she'd had a boy? Because this family doesn't seem too big on men. But that's how we close it. And again, it's just there's not much meat on this bone, but the acting performances and the atmosphere and the great direction, it just all makes it, if not like one of the all-time great episodes, it makes it an all-time fun episode. And again, probably has one of the greatest titles of Tales from the Crypt and all of Tales from the Cryptdom. I really dug this one. I give it an A- just for the sex and gore alone. Like, that gets a lot of leaps and bounds just with sex and gore. And I think that is all I have to say about Lover Come Hack to Me. Please join me next week, and I promise you will get a video next week for the last episode of season 1. And this episode will be directed by another favorite director of mine, and it's a woman director, and it is Mary Lambert. And it's interesting because this episode parallels a lot of her most famous movie, Pet Sematary. So please join me next week for my thoughts on Mary Lambert's Collection Complete. And before I go, I'll say what I always say. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for giving me grace that I've missed a couple of weeks. I apologize. Hopefully it probably will happen again, but I'm going to try to make it happen less. It's just life, guys. But just because I was away, don't think I don't love you guys. And always remember, keep watching and talking horror. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay crypty, guys. I need to think of something cool for the crypty sign-off. Cryptalicious. Crypticon? Is that a thing, or is that where they scam people with those electric coins? Oh well.